Hey guys, it's Dakota. If you went to high school with me, you probably know me as Goody. Goody or Dakota, those were the two names I've gone by. Uh, Goody was more high school. Dakota is more like what all my college friends call me, or my acquaintances. Anyways, so yeah, for those of you tuning in, attempting to start a podcast. I hope it goes well. The reason that I wanted to start this was because I talk all the time. For those of you who know me, I'm always talking. Sometimes what I say doesn't make sense or off topic. Um, you might say I like to hear myself talk. I don't know if that's true or not, but I figured why not do something where I get to talk all the time, and people hopefully will listen. Um, I'll talk about anything. I'm not afraid to go over heavy topics because that's just how I am. I think those things should be discussed. But it's not going to be all serious. I'm not going to just be all depressed and talk about all these sad subjects all the time. I want to talk about anything. I just think the problem is people don't like to talk about things, about certain subjects, and they just need to be discussed. And that's just kind of why I wanted to start this podcast. For our first podcast, I'm going to be doing this with my brother Trevor. He's actually sitting right here next to me. He's going to tell you a little bit about himself right now.
Oh, okay. So, I'm 17. I'm Dakota's younger brother. I go to Peatone High School in Illinois. It's a small town, mainly country-ish. It's like suburban, but it's still...
just all cornfield, basically.
Yeah, there's a lot of cornfield and then like small town in the middle with hardly any business.
That's why when we tell people we're from Illinois, we just say Chicago, because that's the only place people really know. I've actually met someone who thought Chicago was a state, by the way.
Yeah, I've encountered a lot of people like that, actually. Some people thought Illinois was in Chicago.
Come on, people, know your geography.
Yeah, I'm not even good with geography, but, like, that's like saying California's in LA. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense. But we're about, like, 45 minutes to an hour from Chicago.
So come give us a visit if you're in the Chicago area. Shout out.
Yeah, this is probably the most activity going on in Peatone right now. I don't think anyone is really doing anything besides, like, I don't know, high school kids going out and partying or something. There's nothing really creative, and...
I had a lot of cringy moments in high school with partying. Man, that was pretty bad. I was actually talking about this with our mom. Man, partying in high school, that was something to forget. Honestly, I was just drinking to drink. It had no purpose. Was just trying to get drunk out of my mind. I've had some crazy stories, and I'll talk about those another time. But for now, we're just gonna try and get into it. But anyways, if you have any questions or anything that you want us to talk about in our next podcast, just comment what you want us to talk about, or what you liked or what you disliked, what we can improve on. This is all trial and error right now. This is something that none of us are experts on. Me or Trevor, this is something we're just trying out for the first time. So just let us know. We'd appreciate the feedback, but if it's negative feedback, just please try and be
constructive.
Constructive feedback, yeah, exactly. I'm just going to say this ahead of time. One thing you'll notice is I'm probably like the dumber of the two of us, even though I had more years in school. So you'll probably notice that right away, that my brother Trevor knows a lot. He knows a lot more than me. So I'm probably just going to, for the most part, sit back and like have my 2 cents. But for the most part, my brother usually knows what he's talking about more than I do. I like to pretend that I'm smarter than him, but we all know the truth, that it's him. But
that being said, though, neither of us are experts on any of the stuff we're going to be talking about. We're going to be looking into some of the things, and we do have experience with certain topics that we will be talking about. But we're not always going to be right, and this is all about different perspectives.
We're hoping also to bring in different guest people as well, friends. And I know because right now we're in Illinois, I'm going to take this podcast hopefully back with me in California, and I have a lot of friends out there who will hopefully also join in my podcast as special as guests, and they can also provide more insight, because we don't want you to just hear from us, our opinions and our perspectives. We want you to hear from other people as well. So for the first couple podcasts, it's just gonna be us two. But eventually, I'm gonna start bringing in more people. Uh, anyways, I'll probably start a spreadsheet or something for people to sign up if they'd like. I'll have it open to the public, but mostly for my friends.
And I may start my own little thing too when he's gone, but
listen to mine. Give mine a shout out. Anyways,
I'm the one who did all the work behind the scenes.
that's not true. But so Trevor, I have a question for you. Something that I read online. I thought it was an interesting question. So you find a book and begin to read only to discover that it is your life. You get to the point that you are at now. Do you turn the page knowing that you will not be able to change the events to come?
I feel like
it's tough.
I think I would look only a little bit ahead, and then I would stop.
So how far ahead would you look?
Maybe like the next couple days.
Okay, and what would be the purpose behind that? Because
it would be interesting to know what's going to happen without me living my life differently because of that.
I get confused because this is kind of like predestination stuff. If I'm gonna get all religious, oh, that was a nice voice crack. But if I'm gonna get like all religious, predestination is the idea that if you believe in a God, that God predestined all the events that are to come, and there's no way we can change it. So basically, we're born into this certain algorithm that life is gonna happen this way in a chronological order, and we can't really do anything to change that. Well, it kind of has to do with this question, and I'm a little confused. It says you can't change it. You can look into the future, but you can't change it. But what if like, for example, it says tomorrow you're going to eat a chocolate chip cookie. But what if you're like, okay, I read that now, I'm not going to eat it. That's what I'm confused about. How would this even be possible?
Yeah. I mean, like, you mean how would the book be possible, or?
No, like, how could you look into the future, know what's going to happen tomorrow, and then not be able to change it?
Oh,
to me,
well,
that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't really think you could either, unless you made yourself forget about it somehow. I don't really think that you could just, unless, okay, this is where it's kind of like a paradox, like a time paradox. So if that's your future, then that means the book already knew that you were going to read it.
Ooh.
So
just blew my mind a little bit.
So you knowing that is your future, that would mean that the book already knew that you were going to know that. And so everything you do is still going to lead up to that future because it took that into account. I don't even know if that I feel like I misused the word paradox there, but
you know what? It's okay. I'm sure half the people won't even know who listen to this. But anyways, if it were up to me, honestly, that would give me anxiety knowing what's ahead of me, because we like to pretend that we want to know like what's gonna happen, right? Like, for example, if I took a really hard exam and I need to know my final grade, I want to know right away what I got. If I could go in the future and look like, did I pass this class or this exam or not? Yes, I would look. But when it comes to things like my life events, that would give me so much anxiety. Like, knowing what's going to happen in the future, I would try and take control of my own fate and kind of like be my own god in a way. Like, I would try to resist, I'd be like, no, this isn't. And because people like to resist things that they are like, when people like to have control of their own life, they like to have control of things, right? They don't like to feel like they can't control any aspect of their life. So like, if I were to look in the future, I would want to start taking control of everything in my life and finding a way to go beat the system and beat what my quote unquote fate or destiny is. Also, like, if I'm gonna be homeless in 5 years, I don't want to know. Let me be happy these next 5 years, and then let me be homeless. Like, I don't want to be all depressed and anxious about my sad future. I'd rather at least have a happy present, knowing, not knowing what the future will hold. You could say I'd be better prepared for it. Like, if I knew my life was going to be messed up when I'm older and I'm going to have a bad life, yeah, you could say, like, oh, I'll be more mentally prepared for it. Yeah, I think to some extent, but I still wouldn't want to know. Like, that would just, I think it would, the anxiety and the stress would just drive me to death anyways, thinking about it every day. I wouldn't be able to fall asleep. Little things. I get, everybody has general anxiety, and that's what keeps people up at night. I think about the smallest things sometimes that keep me up at night. I couldn't imagine thinking about my own future, my fate. That would just be terrible.
And then, wait.
Go ahead.
Imagine if you stressing about all that from reading the book was the whole reason why that was your destiny. And so if you never read the book, that wouldn't have been your destiny.
Wow. Yeah.
There's a lot of factors that come into play when you're talking about time, like whether it's the future or past. Like in a lot of shows and movies, when they know what's going to happen in the future and they can change it, then they end up having a lot of unforeseen consequences because they tried to stop something bad from happening, but then it caused a chain of other events to happen.
Alright, on a less serious note, and oh, by the way, if we ever ask hypothetical questions or anything like that, feel free to answer what you think, or don't be afraid to put your input in the comments or anything like that. We want to hear what you have to say as well. On a less serious note, I have another question, and this is up for grabs for anyone as well who's listening. Is cereal soup? Is cereal considered soup? Trevor, thoughts?
Okay, well, my first thought about this was that there was a Vsauce video about it. I don't remember everything about it, but I think one of the first questions he raised was, if cereal was soup, then milk would have to be broth. So is milk a broth?
So, does all soup have broth?
Yeah.
Even like cream of potato soup?
It's a tomato broth. It's a creamy tomato, did you say tomato or potato?
No, I said cream of potato.
Okay, so it's a creamy potato
Potato,
broth.
potato, tomato, it's all the same, right?
But usually the creamy soups also have milk.
But they don't have broth.
They have potato broth.
What's potato broth?
It's like juices from a potato, I don't know.
Imagine just eating like straight potato broth. I wonder if that'd be good.
That made me think of like old potatoes that get like brown and juicy, or like black and juicy and smell nasty.
Okay, I'm just losing my appetite over here. In case you're wondering, I always have, I'm always hungry. I can always eat something. I could be stuffed 1 second and an hour later, I'll just be hungry for no reason. Sometimes it's probably out of boredom. I don't know, but I'm always down for food. I'm not very picky either. I eat most things. I was the pickiest eater as a child, let me tell you. I would not eat like any vegetables or fruits. There's so many different things. I was a chubby kid, not gonna lie. I put ranch on I put ranch on everything. I put ranch on my pizza, ranch on my fries, everything. It was just ranch for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, But anyways, I kind of got off topic a little bit, but back to the soup thing.
I can't remember the conclusion that he came to in the video about it, but another thing I just thought of is like usually with soup, and it applies to cereal, the broth will take some flavors from the ingredients that are in the soup. So like think of like Cinnamon Toast Crunch or Cocoa Puffs or something. Mm-hmm. The milk gets a lot of the flavor from the cereal that's in it, like the cinnamon sugar and the chocolate and everything.
So your answer is yes or no? Is cereal soup?
I feel like on all of the technical things that I can think of, it would be a yes.
Okay.
But I don't want to say it's a soup.
Okay, so then I have a plot twist for you. Is soup cereal?
No, because cereal by definition I think is like
I didn't know there was really a definition.
Well, because cereal isn't just the Kellogg's or like what's the other brand?
Well, cereal doesn't have to have milk, right?
Well, right. It's that, and also cereal is a grain. It's not like cereal is referring to grains. It's not just what you get in a plastic bag in a box.
So, what about like Cookie Crisps or Fruity Pebbles?
The reason it is a cereal is because of the grains it's made of.
So even something like, I don't know. There's like the Cookie Crisps, right? Are there grains in those?
I mean, it has some kind of wheat or
So then, okay, well, bread has grain, and bread isn't cereal.
right. Okay, so just to get some closure,
Some
um,
closure. What is this?
the dictionary definition of cereal is a grain used for food such as wheat, oats, or corn.
Okay, so bread has grain that is used for
Mhm.
food, but bread's not cereal.
Right. I think. Okay. I believe that the grains that are used in bread are classified as cereals,
Okay. Okay.
and so what you do with those cereals are are your choice. And if you make it into a baked, chopped up form of it that can be eaten with milk, then that's just what we call cereal, but that's not cereal by definition.
Okay. Well, since we're on this topic, is a hot dog a sandwich?
Mm,
These are the essential questions we must know before we enter heaven.
I don't know. I don't think you eat a hot dog the same way you eat a sandwich.
I mean, I eat them with my hands in my mouth.
Right,
I eat
but
'em
the way
sa-
think about the way you turn it. The way you turn a hot dog, you have it face up.
Right.
Sandwiches are never face up. even like beef sandwiches and hoagies.
Okay, but isn't a sandwich just classified as meat between two pieces of bread?
Well, technically a hot dog bun is one piece of bread.
Oh. Crap, you're right. So,
But then there's also
there's open face sandwiches. Right?
yeah,
So,
Yeah.
couldn't a hot dog be a form of like an open face sandwich?
maybe. I think it's another thing that could be considered a sandwich, but I don't want it to be. Um
Honestly, we'll leave that up for the comments because I want to see what your guys' thoughts are. 'Cause I don't really know what I think about it too much.
did
But these are questions we should definitely ponder on.
yeah. Did anyone on Instagram come up with anything?
What do you mean?
Questions?
Oh no, I didn't ask people to post questions.
Okay. I thought you did like a while
No, I
ago.
asked for suggestions about
Okay.
our what we should do for our podcast, which I still have the list of things. So I didn't forget about you guys who commented. Don't worry, you guys are all in my thoughts still. I'm probably gonna combine different things, but anyways, so what if there's no really like theme or major topic that we're discussing in this podcast necessarily, but it's our first one, so we're trying to make it a little more casual this time around and not, be so topic or subject heavy. But one thing that we kind of wanted to discuss in our first podcast is something that me and my brother talk about a lot is expectations that society places on us. We think that we kind of burden ourselves with these expectations and we stress ourselves out. Obviously, we know depression rates are going up. There's, turn on the news, you'll just see so many things wrong in the world, but that's not what we want to focus on necessarily. Anyone can tell you the world is a bad place. It's we're sinful people. There's, bad things all over the place. We're fallen people. So, of course, the world's not going to be perfect. Anyone can tell you that. But we just kind of like to talk about these expectations that society places on us that make us more stressed out than we have to be. So, there's like 7 kind of main categories. I was doing some research and this is like the 7 things that popped up for expectations that society places on us. There's, judging the book by its cover. We're told to be prejudgmental in a way so that like we can look out for certain things and take precautions in our life. We're expected to stay active on social media. We're expected to be in a relationship. Always be positive. I'm a pretty positive and optimistic person, but I can't always be positive. To agree with the majority, to go with the consensus route, which, that's not always easy to do, especially when it's against your moral obligations. You have to go to college. Yeah, I'm all for college. I think it's great, but I don't think it's everything it's cracked up to be, and we can get into that more later. And last but not least, that you should be at a certain maturity level at a certain age. Um, no, you shouldn't. People mature at different levels. I definitely wasn't mature for my age, senior year of high school or freshman year of college. Like I was saying earlier, I got did a lot of stupid things. Definitely out of that phase now, and I'm more responsible with what I do in my life choices. But some people would say, "Oh, by college, you should be mature." Well, why is that? Who said that I should be mature at the age of 18?
Is this what we're starting with, the ages?
Sure, why not? I don't care.
Okay, so obviously at some point everybody has to grow up. It happens like very differently for everyone. Depends on their family life, their life experiences, their personality, how they are as a person. But going to college is like he said, it's kind of the deadline. It's like everything has to shift from just living at home, being in high school and every grade level before that, and then just straight to living on your own for the most part. And
Like there's some formula that if we follow it that certain way, we're gonna get a certain outcome that we desire.
and we don't really get a lot of preparation for what we actually have to do when that time comes.
So why? What do you mean preparation? Like,
People always say that you have to get through school, get good grades, get to college, and
Mhm.
get a job. But we're never really walked through the process. We're not taught how to do the basic life things that we need to do as we move on our own. Um,
Yeah, like who have you ever been taught how to write a check in school?
no,
Right? Have you ever been taught how to budget in school?
no.
No. I mean, of course your parents can teach you some of these things. And I don't think we should place all the blame on the public education system. I'm not trying to say, the public education systems are bad necessarily, but I think they're flawed and they need to be improved. And also that we don't need to be in a public institution to have a good education. I know people who are homeschooled who came to college way smarter than the average person who was in the university. So it also depends on gender as well, because men and women think differently, right? They value different things in society. So for example, men. So the most valued thing. Wait, hold on. Sorry, I think. So the thing that society values most in men is honesty and morality. What they value most in women is physical attractiveness. Well, right there, that should already tell you something's off. If men and women are truly equal, why are we placing different values on them? Why is it that women should look attractive and men have to be honest and good moral people? I think we should all be good moral people and good honest people.
And we should all be attractive, obviously. If you're ugly, leave.
Yeah, don't even listen to this podcast. No, if that's true, then I shouldn't even be talking in this podcast because I'm
get
ugly.
out.
No, but physical attractiveness, really? That's what society has come to, where 35% of people value physical attractiveness most in women. Like, that doesn't make sense. We see it everywhere, right? In commercials for food, for example, like Carl's Jr. Have you seen the Carl's?
Oh,
Give me a
yeah.
break. It's women wearing bikinis, holding burgers. They're selling the women for food, for their profit, for their gain.
And, okay, so I don't agree with a lot of the radical, SJW people and feminists and stuff, but I definitely see a lot of their points when they talk about things being run by men when you see those commercials and everything, because the audience for the advertisement for places like Carl's Jr. and everything are definitely geared towards men or
Yeah,
people who are attracted to women.
I'm sure the people who came up with that idea for the commercial were not women.
Right.
I'm sure not. They're like, oh, I want to be, I want to promote my body so people will come buy this burger. If we look at the second most valued thing for men, it's being professional and having financial success, and for women, it's being empathetic, nurturing, and kindness.
Now this one, the roles are kind of reversed.
Right. So this is something that I was talking about with a coworker the other day. We're talking about financial success and professionalism. Well, I think in previous generations, people valued success in a way. I think success and professionalism looks different now than it did before, because in the baby boomer age, everybody was to go to college, get a degree, get a big house with a white picket fence, that kind of have the big family, have all these nice things. Well, now we're placing less and less value on material things, and we're going more towards experiences. I was talking to my grandpa about all these places I've been to, and honestly, I haven't even been to a lot of places. I haven't even left I went to Mexico for the first time. Shout out to my friends who went to Mexico with me. It was a good time celebrating my friend Brad's birthday. That was fun. But besides Mexico, which isn't even far from the U.S., I haven't really left the country. And even when I went to Mexico, it was in Tijuana, which is really close to the border. So it's, I don't know. You count that if you want, but I haven't even been to that many places. And my grandpa's like, "Wow, you've been to like so many places, and what are you gonna do with the lack of money? You're spending all this money for all these experiences and vacations. Are you gonna have money like for retirement, for like a house and stuff like that?" Well, I'm not thinking that far ahead right now. I'm taking it one day at a time. Now, of course, I'm not gonna spend money recklessly. I'm gonna save my money. I'm going to be a senior next year in college. I'm going to be a high school math teacher, hopefully, assuming I pass all my board exams. CSETs, man, they're killer. But, I'm studying math. I'm 1 year away from getting my degree and a year and a half away from getting my teaching credential. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm excited. But the thing is, I'm not going to be working the rest of my life so I can pay off, my loans, to pay off my appliances, utilities, everything for my house. I don't want to be working to maintain these nice things. I'd rather live like a minimalist, maybe not to the extreme like that some people do, but I'd rather live like a minimalist and have a smaller house, have less things, and be able to go out and experience things. Because what are you going to remember, before you die? You're going to remember all these things that you did. You're not going to remember all the things that you had that were fun at the time, because material things, they're fun for the moment, right? And then it's, they get old, like anything. Like if I were to get a basketball hoop, for example, in my backyard, and I wanted to shoot hoops, that basketball hoop's gonna get old. It's gonna be used, and it's gonna deteriorate, and I'm gonna have to replace it with a new one. Material things can get replaced. Experiences can't.
There's definitely material things that people have value on, like justified value with in their lives, because they find a lot of enjoyment out of those things. Like for me, I definitely like to play video games, and
a little too much if you ask me.
Okay, I didn't even play much during the school year. I was filling my time with a lot of more important things. But video games have always been something that I enjoyed, and it would be stupid of me to invest in every little video game thing that I wanted, but I do still get a pretty good amount of stuff that I want with my money, because those are things that have always been a source of enjoyment for me. You gotta be smart with what you're buying and knowing whether it's actually giving you enjoyment or not, because there's so many things that people do buy that they think will make them happy, but then they just get tossed aside or placed somewhere to look nice. And for somebody that's very passionate about basketball, the basketball hoop would be something that's of great value for them to buy.
And they would probably take care of it.
Right. Things like that can last and actually make people have a better quality of life. But what we are talking about is the excess of our expectation to own things that other people have seen as valuable, and just to keep getting the biggest and best things that look so good on advertisements and TV.
Right, and this is something that I talked about with my anthropology professor in college. Was okay. So if we go back to hunting and gathering days, right? Because we value leisure and free time, right? We like to work on the weekdays, if you have a career, and then relax with the family on the weekends, go out and do stuff. And of course, you could say, okay, well, you need money to afford these nice things, to do these things with your family, and you need free time. Well, if you go back to hunting and gathering days, people will argue, okay, well, they didn't have a lot of free time because all they did was they had to hunt and collect things all day so that they could survive day to day. It's actually not true. Hunters and gatherers actually had a lot of free time. They only actually had to hunt for 1 or 2 days of the week. Excuse me, not 1 or 2 days a week. They only had to hunt for a few hours each day of the week, because they got enough that they needed for the day, and the rest of the day was theirs. They spent time with family, with their community. They had strong community ties, something that we don't have here in this society today. We are so drawn to ourselves and our self-image, but we forget to, go out into our community, be with our friends, go make connections, and have a tie with the people around you. That's really important. If you don't have a strong community, you're going to crumble, you're going to collapse, because what's going to happen is maybe you're comfortable, living for yourself, and you're doing all these nice things for yourself, stuff like that. It's going to be good at first. You're going to be happy temporarily. The problem is you're going to see what you're missing out on. You're going to realize that living for yourself and seclusive, it's not good for your psyche. We're social creatures. We're meant to be with people. We're meant to talk. When you live a isolated lifestyle, you just start to deteriorate. You may not see it physically. It may take time, but eventually you'll see, you're just not going to reach your potential as a human being. We learn from our own mistakes, of course, but we also learn from other people's mistakes. We learn from observing people, you can gain so much knowledge from other people. So why are we keeping to ourselves? Why are we locking ourselves away in our phones? What are your thoughts?
Well, okay, so I agree, not 100%, but I definitely agree with the fact that we are meant to.
We never agree 100%. So
yeah, that's kind of what makes this a good thing to talk about, because we have different perspectives. What?
Oh, nothing. Go ahead.
Okay, so first of all, many people are have their varying degrees of need for social interaction. I have a friend who craves intellectual conversation and knowledge, and he spends most of his time at his computer researching and learning new things himself. And he does have a problem with social interaction to a point. He knows how to interact with people, but he doesn't willingly just go out and start talking to someone unless it's a close friend. And if he didn't have any close friends, he would definitely feel lost and like he's missing something. And he's been at that point before. But he's also very comfortable and thrives being alone, doing his own thing, learning more stuff. But he does make his time productive.
Going off of what you were saying about someone who does a lot of research and doesn't do a lot of social interaction. I mean, it's good to research, to back up your back up what you're saying with facts and research. We should be knowledgeable about what we're talking about. And research is good because, you explore new ideas and get new perspectives. The problem is when you have this knowledge and you're not releasing it to the world, what good is it? If you
Well,
keep this
okay.
if you keep this information locked up inside of you and you're not sharing it, no one else is going to be able to gain this knowledge and learn from it and be positively influenced by it.
He's productive though, like I said. He's in this group where they all share ideas online.
Mm-hmm.
They build off each other. He started a channel where he's talking about the things that he learns and breaks it down for people. He's attended lectures and meetings with people that have a similar interest in the things he's studying, and that is social. That is things that you were talking about that people need. And besides, like, okay, he does do that stuff, but he just does spend a lot of time alone, and then once he feels he's learned a lot and gained new ideas and knowledge, then he can share it with people.
Okay, so I have a question. So why is it then? Why do you think society places such high expectations of us?
I think that in order for us to run smoothly as a country, there kind of has to be one way for us to do things in order to maintain order. At least in the sense that a government knows how. There's definitely...
I was gonna say that didn't work for Germany and
Well,
World
yeah,
War II.
right. I mean, there has to be systems in place to govern as many people as there are. But it doesn't work for everyone, and there's a lot of people that are left behind because of it. Like, okay, so think back to the hunter and gathering people.
They have names, they matter.
Okay, well,
Hunting and gathering lives matter. Okay.
Yeah, well, the work that they did all had a purpose. They didn't go to work like at their office job or like serving other people that they couldn't care less about and come home and not see the progress of the work they did. Every little bit of work that they did was for their life, and they were able to use all of the products of their work in their lives.
Which is very satisfying.
Right.
When you work at a desk job, right? You're sitting there, you're wondering, like, is this really worth my time? Who is this benefiting? Nobody, not me at least, right? Benefiting my boss, getting good sales, so he's, making good money, while you're sitting here making a wage or salary. I don't think necessarily that the expectations that society has placed on us is different than it was, many centuries ago. I think it looks different. It's in a different form, kind of like wearing a cloak, for example. I don't even know if that made sense, but anyways, So, sorry to interrupt, but I think, for example, you go back to the ancient cities of like Rome and Greek, where they established these what?
Roman Greek.
Oh wait,
Greece.
Rome and Greece. Oh my gosh, okay, this is bad. But it's funny because I always make fun of people who say stuff like that. Like I speak Greece,
Yeah.
No, but you go back to those civilizations, those ancient civilizations, and they value kind of same things that we do now. You had to respect authority. But what does it look like? What did it look like then? What does it look like now? Well, back then, resistance meant like death or torture. Wow, torture. Whereas here, you more get shamed or exiled, right? You're still told to respect authority, even in religion. God says to respect your authority, even if they're sinful and they're not the best leaders. You still have to respect them because God appointed them. But, anyways, aside from the religious aspect, you're still supposed to respect authorities back then as you are now. You were supposed to be active in your community. It was very unfavorable if you weren't active in politics or in the army, or you weren't active with the community. If you were kind of isolated, you were seen as an outcast or weak. Even now, if you kind of don't stay active or know your facts about the politics that are going on, or don't stay with the present with what's going on around you, you're kind of shamed for that. You're left behind, as Trevor was saying earlier.
Okay, so the idea of things being cloaked, but still the same, what I see that as is things were always valued. We always valued things, even in the hunter-gathering times. But those things that were valued were essential to our lives. They were things that we needed without question, and if they weren't necessarily for just survival, they were things that helped us thrive with other people. As those things became more accessible and civilization advanced, where so many other things have been made that aren't just for survival because we find other ways to enjoy our lives than just surviving, the value has shifted from things we need to a currency that gets us things we need or want. We need money in a society like this because it gives us the things we need, like food and shelter and everything like that. But having money also gives us the opportunity to get so many other things that we don't need that seem pleasurable or even could be of good value but aren't.
Yeah, I mean, you look at some of the some billionaires and millionaires, and sometimes they're one of the most depressed people, and you ask yourself why. They have all this money. Well, I was listening to this other podcast, right? And this guy, I'm blanking on the name right now. But I was listening to this podcast, and he was saying that everybody has a blueprint in their life that they must follow. Otherwise, they're going to be sad. So, for example, he was telling a story about this woman who was very well off, wealthy. She had a big house and everything like that. And she, you would think from the outside that she was the happiest person alive. But she was actually very sad with her life. And she wasn't being selfish in that she wanted people to feel bad for her, because when she really got down to the center of her sorrow, it was because she wasn't close with her siblings. In life is to have a close-knit family. So she could have all the riches, a big family, nice house, everything. But if she's not close with her family, like her sisters and her brothers, she's going to be upset in the end. Now, of course, there are things that are universal that make people happy, such as doing good things, doing good deeds, making other lives better, saving a life. Like those, doing things like that will always, whether you're religious or not, whatever your affiliation is, whatever your background is, we know that a universal way to make someone happy or in a pleasant state of mind is to help people and do good deeds. But aside from that, we know that there are certain things that society values certain things in us, but we also value things ourselves, and we should also stop focusing so much on what society expects from us and focus more on what you value yourself. Because if you stay true to your morals and you build your life around what you value, you're gonna be more well off and in a better state of mind, I think. Do you agree with that statement, or do you think that's overgeneralization? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I agree. Obviously, there's different factors that come into play with whatever situation somebody has. But I did want to add that I think the reason why people lose focus of, or at least part of the reason people lose focus of what is really important to them, is because of things like school and work. We are always, it's kind of shoved down our throats that we have to perform well in school and work for our lives so that we can it's taught to us basically that we need to be successful with wealth. And a lot of people do say that you should try to find something that you're going to enjoy in life. But the whole process that gets us to that point, or not, it doesn't even always get to that point for some, is one of the most unenjoyable things ever. And we don't get a tailored path for us for what we actually do want to do in life for most of school. And then even in college, we have limited time to get there.
Yeah, Trevor, can you expand on your thoughts on that? Because I know you talk a lot about, you have a pretty big passion for school and work and how you think it should be rather than what it is like now, because I'm still a little confused as how you think it should look like.
Okay, well, it's kind of hard to come up with a solution, especially with like one that would fit within the structure of school, how it is at this point. But there's a lot of places that have education systems where you're taught like more important things. You do things together. You work on cooperation. School days are shorter. There's less homework, and I feel like that would increase the quality of your life through school so much, because I know that for me, I have to jam pack my days just so that I can do something enjoyable during my school year. Like, I can't even take some of the classes that would be beneficial to me because I'm forced to take classes that I am not going to use in my life, or just ones that aren't super important to what I need to accomplish. And so then I try to fit things that I do enjoy, like band and choir, and then after school activities like show choir and stuff like that, just so I can have some enjoyment in my school life. And then I end up going through school, staying after school to do those activities, and then I come home and do more school at home. And then that's my whole day.
I don't want to go much further on this because I actually do want to do a separate podcast on education reform. But I will just branch off a little bit of what you're saying is I do think there's a lot wrong with it, right? I mean, starting at the psychological levels, like the basic psychological needs of man, like if you look at Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Sleep is one of the most important things that we need in our life, and school starts so early. They give us hours, especially if you're in AP classes, you're given hours of homework. You have exams, finals, SATs, ACTs. If you're in college, you might have an internship. You have all this other stuff going on in your life. I know college it's a little different because you can, you don't have to sign up for early classes. Sometimes you don't have a choice. Like there's been times where I didn't have a choice and I had to get a 7:30 class. And I remember even in high school they had 6:40 classes, which I unfortunately fell victim to for 3 years in a row. Because I wanted to fit certain things in my schedule so I could be in things like choir, football, and stuff like that. So school doesn't even meet our psychological needs of getting sleep, having hiccups right now, can't even talk. But yeah, so I don't want to go too much further into that, but I do definitely agree with that. Maybe not fully with what you're saying, but again, we'll have a separate podcast for that one because I did some research for that in my education classes about how education should look versus what it looks like now and what it's turning into.
To get back on track a little bit, the school system works just fine for some people. Some people are able to just grind through all of their homework really fast and have a lot of time. But everybody is different. They think differently. It's just the way things work for people just is different for every situation. And tying back into the definition of like success in society's expectations. So we're usually expected to do really well in school and get a job, and the idea that people always talk about is being well off, as in having enough money, and that does give you some freedom to do things that you'd like because you need money to travel and do a lot of things that would be enjoyable. But you're going to end up sacrificing a lot of your time, especially in your younger years when you should be when you have the energy to do the most enjoyable things in your life.
Well, you can have energy when you're older if you diet right and do the right exercise, right? I don't think that argument is necessarily valid because, yes, you are technically more energetic as a kid. Obviously, having we have 3 younger siblings ourselves, so we know they're little balls of energy. They never run out. But you can have a lot of energy when you're older too.
I know, but you become more content and settle as you get older. When you're in your teenage and young adult years, you're more inclined to explore things and just do things. And there's so much potential out there, but as we're stuck in a system, it kind of hinders our desire.
I think if you start at a young age with the mindset that you will not settle for things and you always will, you're a go-getter and you want to achieve your goals and you go get them and you never settle for less, I think you'll have that mentality when you're older.
It's definitely possible to enjoy life as you're older still. We have grandparents who are retired now and they live in Florida some of the time. They live in Illinois,
Indiana.
Yeah, and
they have a lake house.
Yeah, and they
I need to go to this summer.
They feel so much better now that they're retired and that they can do what they want with their free time. But the generalization that we always hear is that you need money to do things or to get what you need, and that's only true to an extent. It can only get you so far, and you have to consider what you're losing for that. I lost my train of thought.
That's okay. I'm going to wrap it up with one more idea. I know we didn't cover everything, but trying to keep the first podcast a little shorter, on the shorter side. The last expectation that I want to talk about is being in a relationship. I think, we see all the time people in relationships on Instagram. People always post their pictures of them kissing or, being with each other, which there's nothing wrong with that. But why is it that society has placed these expectations that we need to be with someone to be happy, or we need someone in our life who build us up? I mean, that's good to have someone who is building you up and is a positive influence, but they don't have to be a partner. It could be your dad, mom, brother, sister, friend, whatever. I'm just wondering, why is it that we strive so much to be in a relationship? Don't get me wrong, relationships are nice. I've been in a few, some that I regret, but I wouldn't even say regret. They just weren't the best relationships, we'll say that. But why is it that we feel the need to be in a relationship? I've been single now for a while, and I'm totally content with my life. So why society pushing us to go towards that?
Okay, so I believe that the majority of the population has a desire, even without society's expectations, to find someone that they love. The part that is a little bit over the edge is the fact that people expect you to actively search and find an amazing relationship at a young age. People start trying to date in middle school and they act like it's going to be the best thing ever.
Yeah, right. I remember my first quote-unquote relationship in 7th grade, and don't get me wrong, nice girl, but I just was, first of all, I was awkward. I wasn't ready. I remember I liked this girl, so I slipped her a note in her locker. I was too nervous to talk to her face, and we were both just awkward, first of all, but second of all, it didn't it didn't have much meaning, and I was thinking in my head, like, I could have spent that time with making memories or doing stuff with my friends, the people who are still in my life today. I could have, done more things with them, and I would have much rather just been friends with her, and she could have done stuff with us and made memories and experiences with us. It was like, it ended short, and it was just, there wasn't a lot of meaning to it. So, people don't rush into love, into relationships. It's not something that you can just go into and expecting it always to be great. And it's something that you have to be patient with. And, you're not always gonna have a connection with somebody. You may have similarities, but that doesn't mean you guys are relationship material. I've rushed into a lot of my relationships. It's probably why they didn't end. And didn't have happy endings.
Throughout middle school, I just remember some people starting to get relationships. And obviously when you're that age, you don't realize how pointless it is. And I just remember always wanting a girlfriend in middle school. And so once I got to high school, I kind of tried too hard to be in a relationship in my first one. And it ended up being a really bad one that lasted too long. Just because I thought it could be better. And I didn't realize that your priority has to be yourself. Focus on what you've been doing your whole life, just enjoying it. And the relationship has to come second in regards to yourself.
We're not saying when you're in a relationship you should be treated as equals, but you're not going to be in the best quality relationships when you're not taking care of yourself first, or you're not doing things that you love to do, because you naturally attract people who are similar to you, right? And so if your sole purpose is to find a relationship and you're not focusing on other things and making yourself happy, you're going to find other people who are who are also reliant on finding a partner, and you guys are just going to be too reliant on each other and too dependent. And you want a relationship where, of course, you guys love being with each other, but it are also independent and can be happy being apart, but also knowing you're still together.
Yeah, I do agree with that. You have to be able to feed off of each other's positivity. Like, you have to be okay with how the person lives. You have to be willing to not change who you are as a person, but grow. You have to be willing to realize that you do have flaws.
Yes, snaps to that.
Because nobody's going to ever completely change you as a person, and you're never going to completely change someone else as a person. But both of you always have the opportunity to be better than you were before. And a good relationship is one where each person can realize their flaws and help each other be better.
So, I'm going to wrap up this podcast for two reasons. One, like I said, I just want to kind of keep it short today.
We're hitting the hour mark.
Yeah, the hour mark is closing in. And also, I have to pee really bad. I swear, I have the smallest bladder in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I drink maybe a couple sips from a water bottle. In 10 minutes, I have to go. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this. Again, I will post the link on Instagram, on my story. And for those of you who, if you really like it and want other people to listen to it, of course, you can share this with other people. Share the link. I don't care. It's for the public. Also comment, And also, please share your input. So, like I said, constructive criticism is always welcome. And this is, again, like we said, this is our first podcast, so keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, I hardly have any YouTube or video experience before this, and my only experience was very bad.
Yeah, Trevor had a YouTube channel. What was it?
Super Z.
Super Z.
I don't recommend
Go
it.
check it out.
Please don't.
Just go check it out, please. It's cringy, but it's funny. At least for me.
It was me in middle school. It was fun making it, but the product was not good quality.
Who knows? Maybe this podcast will get it popular. Get your channel popular. I doubt it, but anyways.
I did want to say the time constraint does kind of make it a little hard to keep things natural, but I think having more episodes will let us get more of the things out that we want to say.
Yeah, we're still getting out of the bugs and everything, like all the nervousness. This is as much as I love talking, knowing that people are gonna be listening to this, it makes me nervous. But as I get used to this, I'm gonna start to sound more natural instead of like saying what people want to hear.
Right.
I'm not saying that I'm saying what people want to hear, but like it probably sounds like that at first, and I'm trying. It's a work in progress.
And if people do enjoy it, like the longer ones, then they can be longer. But there's not going to be a set time limit for each one. But we can't just keep this one going, especially for the first one.
Yeah, and it's late here. I mean, it's not that I go to bed early, but it's already past midnight, and I'm kind of tired too. But anyways,
We're thinking of maybe adding video to the future.
But
it's a possibility.
We won our first couple podcasts, at least me. Trevor was fine with doing video. I personally was a little too insecure about it, but once I get used to this whole podcasting, I will definitely... We'll be doing some video, and you can,
Let us know if we should, too. If we should add video, and that could be on YouTube.
Yeah. But for now, we're just going to put it on SoundCloud, I think. Once we get that uploaded, I will, again, like I said, send the link. But thank you for listening, and we're signing out. Now.